I just returned late Friday night from a trip to Kenya where I was scouting a possible mission partner in a very small town, really just a village outside of Kendu Bay. And so if I get a little wonky on you, you people in the first row, just kind of come up here and knock me out. And wake me back up, because I am still having a little bit of jet lag today. But Kendu Bay is this beautiful village on the southern shore of Lake Victoria in Kenya. And the reason we were there was to visit a special needs school called Ageno Community. Now, this school was started several years ago by a woman whom I met here in Dallas. Lydia Awala and her husband, Willis, they came here from Kenya for their education to get their college degrees. And Lydia eventually became a teacher here in the Dallas systems, where she chose to focus her work on children with special needs. And she taught special needs students, children, and adults for, I believe, over 20 years in Dallas. Lydia was amazed at how these special children were given the opportunity to go to school where they could receive an education and excellent resources that capitalized upon their abilities. In Dallas, she learned a holistic approach to special needs education and how to work with her special kids in a therapeutic way. She learned about exercises that address brain connectivity, trying to help the right side and the left side connect and work together. She learned about the appropriate methods for CP kids so that they could gain balance and strengthen their arms and their legs. She also learned about working with physical therapists and speech therapists, and Lydia loves helping children reach their potential. Throughout her time in Dallas, however, Lydia's heart was in Kenya for the special needs children she knew back home and for their families. Special needs children who lived in Kenya, who also struggled with cerebral palsy, autism, Down syndromes, and other challenges. She knew those children there, and she knew how they were considered by their communities, both the children and the families, especially the mothers. The people of the rural communities in Kenya believe their elders' tales, their myths, that the parents, and especially the mothers, must have done something wrong to have children with such issues. Those special needs children in Kenya who try to go to school are therefore picked on or ignored or belittled by the other children and even some of the teachers. Because of this stigma, the children are therefore mostly kept at home in the modest homes of their families. Lydia knew how they were treated and thought of by their communities, and her heart was filled with longing and then inspiration by God on what she could do. You see, education of the children in Kenya is a huge deal. They have an 87% literacy rate, so that every day that we were there, we saw literally thousands and thousands of children walking along all by themselves, walking along the main roads to their schools. Some of them were as little as these kids right here, that big, walking in their school uniforms, without parents, without adults, sometimes holding hands, in their little uniforms, walking to and from school, sometimes miles to get there. often in the dark. Now, the homes in the village of Kenya are often made, particularly in these rural communities, they're often made traditionally from mud. It's actually a combination of mud and cow dung. And they're just wonderfully made. I had the opportunity to go into one with my friend Susan, who I met down there. And I mean, her home was lovely. But there's lots of times they're circular, they could be square. They'll have a thatched roof underneath, so when you look up, you see the reeds on the inside. And on the outside, they have a metal roof. The walls are that mud dung, and the floor is mud, but it's so slick, it shines almost like this floor does here. They are cool, they are comfortable and clean, and it just felt like you were going into, like, from the heat to this place, a cave that was cool and comfortable, a place of respite. But for the children, the special needs children, who are kept home, hidden away, as they watch the other children of their community walk to school and laugh and play, these children have become invisible and they've become nameless. They are home all day, and their homes have become like tombs and caves. So if you think about it, the story of the gospel today is a metaphor for their lives. But then comes this little ball of fire named Lydia Owala. She sees these children in their caves, in their metaphorical caves, and she loves them. And she brings them out to her school, the Ageno community. She actually started her school in 2013, back when she was still teaching here in Dallas. So on her breaks, she would go back and she set up the school, she hired teachers, she provided resources that she could in Kenya, but they had to rent space. Unfortunately, when she did that, once the landlords figured out that this was a special needs school, they would find a reason to kick them out. So after this has happened a couple of times, she and her husband finally made the decision that she would retire from teaching and build a permanent space on a piece of land that they owned and donated to the school, so that she could move home to Kenya and run the school year-round. First, she raised funds to build the building, and then adding to the money that she and Willis had put into the project. When I first met her 3 years ago, she had just made this decision to retire, and the picture she showed me of the school was of cinder block walls about this high. It had just started being built. Since then, they have used their connections here in Dallas and their own resources to raise money for the building. They also got in the US everything they would need, all of the equipment they would need to fill out a special needs classroom for special needs kids. And they put it all in a container and they shipped it over to Kendu Bay on the other side of the world. The school is now a completed 2-story building with windows and solar panels and rain tank cisterns, a community garden, a separate little garden area, a fish pond that helps to support them. And the Men of St. Michael contributed money so that they could put a wall around the schoolyard and to give these kids some privacy and to keep them safe inside their space. The school looks like, when you go into the classroom, it looks like they picked up a Dallas classroom and they just plopped it down in Kenya. The Bishop of Kenya from that diocese came to visit, and he was absolutely stunned. He could not believe this place. Lydia now has 11 kids in her school who get to come every day in their own school uniforms. And while I was in Kenya, I was blessed to spend time with the children, and I was allowed to participate in their education. One of the things I saw Lydia do from the very first morning is that she would greet each child. They would be sitting around in a circle, and she would walk up to them, and she would say, "Good morning, Enos." And he would look up at her, and they would shake hands, shake right hands. That is a huge cultural way of greeting in Kenya. But not only would she have them shake hands, she made sure that they looked up at her and looked her in the eye and said, "Good morning, teacher." And she called them each by name. They were not invisible, they were seen. "Good morning, Bensuba. Good morning, Myra. Good morning, Ida. Good morning, Israel. Good morning, Ramsey. Good morning, Bensuba. Good morning, Robert. Good morning, Brian. Good morning, Brenda. Good morning, Peter. Good morning, Zeddy." This simple act each day gave them confidence. You could see it. And they started their day with their eyes up, proud and confident to be in their school amongst friends. They gained confidence and strength from this very basic skill. And you could see the joy it brought to the people who had been invisible. Now, kids not only received education and skills, but just as important, they found friends. The other kids, they were all so delighted to see each other every morning. Just like our kids here also, they now have best friends. It's so cute when the best friends spy each other, especially the nonverbal ones. They actually quiver with excitement. But it's not just the kids. The parents, especially the mothers, have also been given hope and joy. They now know one another. They have been gathered by this school, and they support one another. And their preparation for our coming, for planning meals, and then cooking for us every day for lunch, it became a means, a blessing for them to strengthen their friendship and their support for one another. We therefore got to see the seeds of their parent-teacher organization starting to form. And we got to see a support group beginning to form as they sat and they prepared meals with one another, which took several hours in Kenya. Ageno in Swahili means hope. And that is what Lydia has done. This one person, inspired by God, with the help then of her family and her friends, has brought a school of hope to her community. The people of Kenya are very religious, and the faith of Lydia and Willis is palpable. You see it open and clearly in their lives. In the way Lydia starts each day at her school with prayer and a Bible story. In the way that she trusts in and is so very vocal about her thankfulness for the abundance God has brought to her and to her school and to her children. She is thankful for the rainwater that fills her tanks, for the sunshine that fuels her solar panels, for the school's garden that is filled with vegetables that they can use to feed the children. And she is thankful for the resources from people like us that has helped her to build and furnish her school. She trusts God completely. She trusts completely in His provision, now and in the future, and she trusts God to guide her way. The Ageno community, the community of hope, including the children, the parents, the teachers, Lydia and her supporters, therefore shine with God's presence. as a Christian community, they have expelled the demons of Kendu Bay. They have expelled the demons that have plagued these children and these families and these mothers. They have come out of their tomb and out of their caves. Their shackles have been released. And they are sharing with the world what God has done for them. Now, you do not have to go to Kendu Bay to meet troubled people living in the dark tombs and chains of their life. Here in Dallas, in fact, in every single community in our world, there are people living in metaphorical caves, tombs, chains, and with demons. People who are homebound or in nursing homes because of their issues. Families dealing with other challenges like addiction, poverty, or other crises and traumas. Living behind closed doors, hiding from the world. My question for you today is, who is God calling you to notice? Who is God calling you to see? Where should you be planting your own Ageno community, your own community of hope? And who can you draw in to help you? Better yet, who can you draw out of hiding, out of their caves, by sharing godly, inspired love and friendship and joy and hope? Asante, thank you. Amen.